Man, the eye pistol. I wonder if Blizzard ever comes out with like the eye pistol 5, people would just buy it brainlessly. Are you getting the iPhone 5, Andre? Because you have an iPhone, right?
I am not.
Oh, good. Good. There, Jimmy Kimmel came out with a video the other day. I think it was yesterday of like, he went up to people with the iPhone 4S and pretended it was an iPhone 5 and asked people to see the difference. And a lot of people are like, yeah, this feels so much lighter. And like, they're like holding their old iPhone with a case on. It's like, well, of course it feels lighter. Let's go ahead and introduce our players on Daybreak. Starting in the bottom left, we have from Team Alternate Attacks, it is Carlo, also known as Cloud, the Teal Terran player. And who do we have in the top right, Andre?
It is, of course, Dignitas Select, an old-time member of Dignitas. And Select was originally known for his hyper-aggression. He was known for just harassing all different parts of the map and just really testing your multitasking abilities. Since then, I mean, he's really trailed back a lot. We've seen a lot more macro play coming out of Select. While he still likes to have some builds that do offer a lot of aggression and a lot of options, he's really gone into just like a sit-back macro style, and I think it's given him a little bit of success. But again, we haven't seen that breakout performance that we're anticipating. Select, of course, known as one of the best North American Terrans in the world.
Yeah, North American
Terrans in the world.
Andre, so is your pick Select? You sound very much like you're leaning towards Select. If you had to pick a prediction.
Okay, well, it's very tough. I honestly think it's, if any advantage, it's going to be a 55-45. It's so minor, but I'm going to give it to Select this time around. I feel like he's been on top of things. He qualified for TSL, and, you know, he's just been playing a lot better recently. I think he's going to take it probably 2-1 today.
Yes, I thought the same exact thing. I thought it was very minor advantage for the other way, though, Cloud. I think 55-45 favors Cloud because we've seen more and more TVT. If it can get past that early build order counters where a lot of people are going for one base, Marine, Hellion kind of openings, or Banshee play, then it kind of devolves to whoever just makes better decisions, stronger fundamentals, and just like the core things that make TVT a strong matchup in general. And I think that ends up favoring someone like Cloud. I think Select often goes for things like speed, multitasking. Even still, when he's playing macro, he goes for those heavy pushes and tries to go for a lot of like Marine splits and whatnot.
Sure.
Cloud's been trying to adjust his play, going for lots of different dynamics in his play. Like I watch him try to play bio still, try to play mech, and I think he's the more versatile player overall. But I still think, if anything, Select it can win the series by pick Cloud 2-1.
All right, definitely. I mean, obviously, we're both picking it very close, but we can see a divergence of builds right away. Gas first, excuse me, not Gas first, but starting out with Gas. One in the beginning phase is now adding on the second one a little bit later on. We're most likely going to see Cloak Banshees coming out from Select. Obviously, the harass, the very aggressive type style going to Select, whereas Cloud, being the macro passive player, has chosen to go for Command Center. Command Center, of course, directly after a barrack. So this is, again, just featuring his style a little bit more. Following up with 2 additional barracks, I wouldn't say there's a build order counter at all for any of these players, but Cloud, if he doesn't get a engineering bay around 6 minutes, he will be in a little bit of trouble against the first Banshee.
Yeah, you need you're gonna have to pretty much either catch it with a good scanner, just wait for it to run out of energy. In either case, it's neither preferable. But that Hellion being out should actually alert Cloud of a lot of things, either to be defensive against a potential drop or for Banshees. And either way, he has to get in position. And you can see that he's immediately prioritizing his combat shield upgrades. Lots of Terrans love doing this because it finishes way quicker. But where's that engineering bay, Andre? Is it going to drop anytime soon?
It has to really, really quickly. And Cloud knows that his opponent's range is to go Cloak Banshees. He's seen a gas first. He hasn't actually committed a scan. If he committed a scan over here, that would really tell him that he needs to get the engineering bay. He hasn't gotten the engineering bay yet, and he will be in a lot of trouble no matter what. I mean, this Banshee should get to his opponent's base by around 7 minutes to 7 minutes and 30 seconds. That is the standard. And there the eBay drops. Now, this eBay will actually take 35 seconds to make, and then 25 seconds more for the turret to make. So that's where you get the 1 minute between you actually making it. Select is going to come out here with this Banshee. He might have a little bit of a timing to actually do damage with this first Banshee.
No, the engineering bay is about to finish up for Cloud, and turret placement is also pretty key. Some people directly place it in their mineral line. Some people place it a little bit off to the bottom right of their minerals on Daybreak. I'm curious to see where Cloud takes it, but actually he's stalling. He's actually delayed building turrets for quite some time, Andre.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Ooh, and the first Banshee's going to get in here. Combat Shields is finishing at the perfect time. Look at that. And there's one scan that goes off. That's actually very helpful for Select. That burns 270 minerals over 90 seconds for Cloud, which is pretty much one of the big advantages that Cloud should have with the second Orbital Command Center a little bit earlier.
Yeah, he's got more SCVs. Always going to try to scan and picks off the Banshee. Great heads up play there from Cloud to follow up. 2 scans for a Banshee. Not the worst thing, especially when you can get turrets up, and he has double orbital compared to his opponent. Now, Select did drop an expansion, and he is trying to follow with more barracks and whatnot, but at the same time, he's also already switching up to siege mode, a quick siege mode, instead of going for upgrades on his barracks. What do you think about that, Andre?
I think he's trying to, I wouldn't say fake, but he's trying to put on this aggression to make it look like it could be a one base all in, but really he's taking an expansion directly behind this. I like this from Select because his opponent is going to see, Cloud is going to see that, hey, there's already siege tanks with siege mode on the field. I have to be really careful, and he might actually cut SCVs because of that.
SCVs are getting picked off, Marines are getting picked off. Combat Shield does make it so Marines drop in 3 shots, but still, Cloud, you know, he's dealing with this pretty good. He has the medevac also healing some Marines to really whittle down the Banshee harass, but still, will Cloud be prepared for the siege tanks that are pushing in? Select already has 2 tanks. Very scary to one-shot Marines immediately. And this is going to be really tough if Cloud doesn't gives up too much position.
That's exactly right. Now, if the siege tanks are able to actually siege up, that's where Select really takes the advantage. They want to siege up around here, but actually Cloud probably shouldn't commit to this. You need to be very careful. You want to wait for Stim, which is 30 seconds away. That is plenty of time for Select to actually do something. But Select needs to tread very, very carefully, as he can actually lose all of his units and then be behind because of that.
You're right. I mean, Cloud completely thinks this is a one base all in. Gosh. The SCVs get in front. The Marines immediately drop the first tank. Select is getting pushed farther and farther back. Stim isn't even finished yet, and Cloud picks up the Banshee with a great scan. The medevac also under siege, but it doesn't really matter because Cloud already has another one already pushing back the second wave of units. Select does have reinforcements coming in. A massive sim from Cloud. He's going to split up his Marines again very nicely. He picks out the second tank, and Select's aggression has been thwarted.
Let's go ahead and look at the income tab and workers lost. 21 workers lost. You can really see from that aggression, the SCVs being pulled is a direct response to Cloud thinking this is a one base all in, and it's so unfortunate because that army was meant to just kill SCVs. It's meant to actually fake your opponent out, and then obviously you take a gigantic economic advantage, and that's exactly what Select did. You can see 43 to 31. He's been so good with keeping on top of everything in terms of economy, and now he's just going to sit back, get enough units, probably get a third base, third command center, and really get all of the essential upgrades before pushing out again.
Yeah, and he's still harassing with Banshees, really trying to keep Cloud accountable, making sure he doesn't push too far out. I mean, Cloud, he's very far behind in supply, and a lot of it has to do with Select having a good number of tanks and workers advantage, and that makes him safe as well. You know, can Cloud even go for another poke outside? He's trying to push out here with his Marines, but he's really kept back into his base because of this Banshee, Andre. And I think Select's done a really, really clever way of getting advantages and making up for his weak spots.
That's exactly right. And I love these siege tanks inside the main base, just being comprehensive with his defense, making sure that any drops will be shut down immediately. We can see a little bit of Select's, I guess, imperfections, the little amounts that he has, but a couple of call down supply depots just because of how aggressive Select is during this particular match. Cloud going to go ahead, take his third command center, but it is a tough position for him to be in because at this point, what Select can do is just really mass out in a lot of Marines, make sure that he has a lot of tanking units, which are, of course, Marines and medevacs, and then siege tanks will actually be the key units that actually give him the advantage in the upcoming fights. And Select being comprehensive with his defense, getting turrets up all over the place, that actually relinquishes all of his units from defensive positions and allows him to actually attack without worrying for some sort of huge mass drop.
And I like that Select's done all the small things as well, keeping advantages alive and repairing it, also making sure to be very safe against drops. Just doesn't want to give up his advantage so easily to lose your advantage, even with the Viking positioning, Andre. Those are the small things that make you very successful. Select, man, playing so smart.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I like what Cloud is doing. He's just going in here, poking in, saying, do you have a third command center or not? Now, this doesn't actually tell him that his opponent doesn't have a third command center in his main base or his natural, which of course he does. But what he's trying to see is if it's established, and he's trying to get that economic advantage, maybe even float his third base all the way over really, really early, get that economic advantage so you can start massing out in a ton of Marines and Marauders and confront the army with just so much stuff, a lot of army. And that's a good way to actually deal with the Marine siege tank composition early on, since it is a little bit more immobile, but still, I mean, Select did get a massive advantage from this early game stage, and this is going to just add insult to injury, killing 3 medevacs. This is going to be probably the trigger for Select to push out and really try to materialize his advantage. Yeah,
I mean, there's no medevacs onto the field whatsoever, and the medevacs represent more than just the ability to heal. It represents the gas that's invested for Cloud. You can see Siege Mode is just about to finish for him. But he does have +2/+2 on the way, and Marine upgrade advantage is very significant, especially when both players are going Marine tank. It just allows your ability to straight up engage a lot better. But again, Cloud did have 1 massive stim as well on a pack of Marines, so that comes into effect. Select isn't in siege mode just yet, but at the same time, he's finally gotten the watchtower, and that's a great spot for Select to kind of hang around. And Cloud can't take his third because he doesn't know where his opponent's going to be bouncing back and forth.
That's exactly right. I mean, Cloud now needs to wait until maybe 140 supply to actually take his expansion. The reason for that is he needs more units to cover the same amount of area. You can see the third base is under attack, and this position is under attack as well. So with so many different positions to defend, and Select has the ability to choose where he wants to attack, he just needs more of those positional units, the siege tanks, in order to actually keep him safe against all positions. Select, my God, playing so intelligent, going ahead, setting up a contain in both areas, and with that, he will be able to shut down a third base. Now, all Select has to do now is take his third, mass up in a ton of units, and know he has the economic advantage. He could start getting more stuff, whether it be siege tanks, whether it be better upgrades, or even getting more bases.
Yeah, I think Cloud is just a victim of playing very standard and straight up, and Select using that knowledge to really cut corners and gain advantages. Select now has a contain on both angles while being safe at the third as well. He's got units to prevent any kind of drops. He's protected at the main. Select is making sure to cover every part of his bases, and he's going to hit max way before his opponent. He's going to catch up on upgrades eventually as well if he can just play the waiting game. And the small advantages that Cloud has, will he be able to really take advantage of it? Is he going to try to bust out this one area? 3 tanks standing in his way, but a massive stim as well. There's a huge pack of Marines from Cloud, and he does seem to break through this front, but Select still has a large army. And he's going to also push into the natural at this point.
Yeah, that's Select's cue to actually threaten the push. And look what Cloud has to do. He has to back up just to protect this one position again. He loses all that momentum that he has over here. And I think Select, again, will unsiege and try to just pressure this. And what it does, just threatening this position, keeps Cloud inside here. So it's still a great contain. And really, Cloud doesn't have a great position to attack via ground. That's why it's so difficult for him to really justify pushing in all this direction. And he's going to do it, maybe even blindside him from the right-hand side. But again, I mean, you're really losing this watchtower, which is so important. Cloud wants to take that, but it's so difficult. I think the best route to actually do this would have been to actually do some mass drop. And not even confront the contain, but wow, Select taking out the orbital command center, beautiful advantage, and now Cloud is going to try to react to this by just crushing down on this force.
Yeah, I mean, Cloud does clean this up, but Select now knows that he has to just defend a counterattack, and he'll be insurmountably ahead, making sure that Cloud can't climb back. He doesn't have another command center. In fact, he's lifting his main and trying to shift it to the third. That's the state of the desperate economy of Cloud. And again, Select has just been preparing this entire time. He's been in one step ahead of Cloud, and I want to say that Select has been strong, reading his opponent's position perfectly and shutting down the center before the tanks are even siege. Select, are you kidding me?
Absolutely crushing his opponent. 3-3 is about to finish for Cloud, but he's not really using. That's really been what's been going on this game. I mean, Cloud hit a little bit before Stim was finished. Really unfortunate for him. I understand his thought process at that point in time, but again, hitting right before 3-3 finishing. And these are all important upgrades to really make his army a little bit more efficient, but that actually speaks a ton when you have these little engagements. I mean, obviously Select now is just monstrously ahead, as you were saying, Frodan. And I don't know how Cloud is actually going to come back from this. He needs to drop back yet again as a Banshee is doing additional damage over here at the third base.
Wow, even just utilizing the utility of these Banshees. 22 kills, but it will be forever remembered. Select has Marines everywhere to spot army movement. Has, again, the still strong protection on each base is making sure he can't get dropped. And now he controls the center. Every part of the map, other than Cloud's own base, is controlled by Select, but caught on siege. But at the same time, Cloud doesn't have that much positioning either. And Select is catching up in the upgrades. 3-3 is finished for Cloud, but he doesn't even have that many Marines to really utilize that upgrade.
And look at the position. I mean, Select just has so much stuff, so he has a lot more options. This army is going to come over here blindsiding Cloud, really. He does have a couple of Marines, which will help out, but there's just so much. Oh, wow. Cloud is actually able to back this off.
Yeah, too many Stim Marines.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Not enough medevacs. So Select, but he's still far, far ahead. You can see another round of reinforcements coming out here. Fourth base being taken by Select, even though fourth base is being taken by Cloud, so he's being really good knowing, okay, to actually stay in this game, I need to keep expanding. I need to keep trying to take you know, similar grounds to my opponent is, but really Select this next attack should be able to maybe not.
I mean, he doesn't really even have to siege at this point, but he is going to siege up anyways. There's a lot of Marines left from Cloud. Beautiful positioning from our Teal player, but Select just has way too much stuff, and Cloud's been doing a good job trying to bounce back and forth and defend the third and not overextend himself, but Select just has way too much firepower. I mean, look at that. His tanks even have +2 over his opponent, and now Select finishes +3 weapons, and the gap is closing ever so slowly. Select pushing into the third, and now Cloud's to pull his SCVs as well. And I mean, Select is now even gearing up for his fourth base, and that just tells the entire story, Andre. That Select just been able to be a little bit more ahead, now to the point where 150 supply to just 90.
And there's a huge open position for Select to take. This is obviously so good. This is what you can do with just great position and then, of course, an advantage in material. And you can see he's just going to stim in here. Cloud taps out, GG. And we have ourselves a first win for today. Select will take it 1-0 in this best of 3.
Very, very well done by Select, and it does come down to opening build choices, but again, it's not just your build, it's how you're able to sell your build.
Yes.
I mean, Select really sold the one base push really well. I mean, the 10-minute time with tanks was great. Sure, he had an expansion and everything, but Select had, it's one of those things where, Andre, you were telling me a lot of times, when you do a build, have a specific goal in mind and really stick to it. In that case, get an advantage for Select and make sure you're safe back at home. Don't do anything that risks your advantage. And from there, Select looked unstoppable.
And Cloud, it's a tough position to be in. I know he knew that he lost so much from that initial Banshee play, but I feel like one scan at the natural would have really verified to him that that was a macro play, not intended for a one base all in. And that would have said, okay, I can wait for Stim. Because the reason why he pushed out before Stim was going is because he doesn't want that tank count to really start to rise up. Once it hits like 4 siege tanks, your Marines become significantly weaker. They just don't have the capabilities of doing nearly as much. So I understand his thought process, but I think one scan is always necessary, or at least an SCV out in the map, to verify if there's that natural so that he can say, should I wait for Stim or should I go in? But really, I think that initial push facilitated the rest of the game. Of course, the contain was awesome that we saw from Select, but it really was a direct, I guess, response or a direct effect from the earlier game stages.
Strong, intelligent play from Select nets him the first win. If you're just tuning in, we're in the middle of the first series of the day. Xenio Galaxy, DRG Alive, all these games we'll be playing coming up later tonight, but we'll find out what happens in game number 2. Let's thank Epson, the #1 projector brand worldwide, for sponsoring that game, as well as NASL Season 4. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a minute, so stay tuned.